Hello my dear students, let us discuss the Hindu dated June 24. 28 is the last date for submitting application to the upcoming IBPS Brahmin Bank examinations, RRB exam. So please make sure that all of you apply well in time. Do not wait till the last moment. By today, the latest, all should submit their applications. That is my request. So banks get assets worth rupees 8,441 crore from Enforcement Directorate, and that is a major news. And Modi to meet J&K leaders today. We discussed yesterday on the Gupkar Alliance decision to meet Prime Minister Modi, respond positively to the invitation made by Prime Minister Modi on the future prospects of Jammu Kashmir. We shall take one by one. Banks get assets worth rupees 8,441 crore from the Enforcement Directorate. International businessmen like Vijay Mallya, corporate tycoons Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi defrauded banks, Indian public sector banks, to the tune of around 22,000 crore, and they flee the country. So Enforcement Directorate successfully attached their assets, both national and international, and gave the money back to the banks. Banks get assets worth 8,441 crore through Enforcement Directorate attachment. ED has transferred asset worth this much crore to public sector banks, which suffered a loss to the tune of 22,585 crore. Listen, it was a few years ago that the business tycoons like Vijay Mallya, Jalar, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, his uncle Mehul Choksi, defrauded Indian public sector banks to the tune of many thousand crores. It is 22,585 crore, and they moved out of the country, and the country has been trying to bring them back and subject themselves to the procedure of law in this country. Due to fraud committed by businessmen Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, so the Government of India, the Enforcement Directorate, started attaching their property, and they have attached and transferred 8,441 crore. Previously they had given some more, and in total they got 9,041 crore to Indian banks, which would cover 40% of their estimated total loss. So banks, due to fraud, thanks to the actions taken by the Enforcement Directorate, commercial banks got rupees 9,041 crore back, which would cover 40% of their loss due to fraud. I am proceeding with the next. Engage Iran. This is the Hindu editorial. I told you many times in the past also that the Iranian issue was well explained, but still I shall tell you. Iran is a country that was having nuclear aspirations. So in 2015, Iran was forced to sign an agreement with P5 plus Germany. Iran and P5 plus Germany. What is this P5? The permanent 5 members. 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. USA, Russia, France, England and China, plus Germany. So Iran was forced to sign an agreement with P5 plus 6 which would force Iran to stop their nuclear experiments, military nuclear experiments. In turn, or in reply, America would lift trade sanctions against Iran. And this agreement worked very well for 3 years. Iran put all their military nuclear assets under the inspection of IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. But in 2018, the then American President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the agreement and imposed trade sanctions against Iran. So this resulted in Iran saying that we are also not going to honor the commitment, and they restarted their military nuclear aspirations. The US blocked a dozen. Now listen, what happened is that, the new government in America under the leadership of Joseph Biden has said that they would restart negotiating with Iran, and the 2015 agreement will be revived. So everybody was expecting that ice will melt soon and America will also come down and will get back to the agreement, and Iran will also become more pliable. But recently US has blocked a dozen Iran linked websites, including Iran's state owned Press TV. Hindu says that this was unnecessary. This happened when both parties have been trying to revive their relations. And when two parties try to revive their relations, such a unilateral action must have been avoided. Ibrahim Raisi has recently been elected. Listen, these names are very important for your exams too. Has been recently elected the president of Iran. He is a new president of Iran. He is a hardliner. He is the head of Iranian judiciary, and he has been sanctioned. He is the first Iranian president who has been sanctioned by American government. He has been sanctioned for his alleged role in the execution of political prisoners in Iran. So he was a head of the Iranian judiciary, and he gave orders to execute political prisoners, and this has spited America, and America has given sanction on Ibrahim Raisi, and he was elected the president of the recently held elections, which lackluster elections were participated by only 48% of the people voted in the recent Iranian election, and it was a highly negative elections. Why? Because many political heavyweights were barred from contesting in the election. US should not act like this, act like despotic regimes that take knee-jerk actions against media with critical coverage. Listen, whenever certain section of the media acts against the national governments, immediately national governments will turn against them. Such governments are despotic in nature, and the Hindu says that the United States of America, the most powerful democracy in the world, open, transparent democracy in the world, should not act like despotic regimes. That's the essence of the Hindu editorial. Please read. Assam's two-child policy will stall development, says another news item. Assam's two-child policy will stall development goals. Assam is a state which has decided to adopt a two-child policy for availing benefits under government schemes. If somebody wants to avail himself of the benefit of the government schemes, then he or she has to adopt the two-child policy. Otherwise, they will not get the benefit. The National Family Health Survey 2019-20 has made it very clear that women and men choose smaller family not because of state imposed restriction, but because of economic pressure. So even without a coercive population policy, men and women choose smaller families these days. So this two-child policy may not be necessary. There have been plenty of studies regarding um, um, population uh, movement, and it clearly is evidenced that economic pressure is the factor that uh, compels people to go for smaller families and not government dictated measures. These points can be used for maybe your group discussion, something like that. This is how we have to build ideas. Additional food grain scheme to continue till November. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, which we uh, discussed even yesterday. Additional food grain scheme to continue till November. The Government of India allocated additional food grain beneficiaries under NFSA, National Food Security Act, for another 5 months till November 2021. People will get 5 kg more of food grain per person every month under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, and 81.35 crore people will be benefited. Very important for your examination. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana beneficiaries are 81.35 crore, and what's the benefit? Each person will get 5 kg of food grain per person per month, and the cost to the exchequer is 64,031 crore. Very important. Whenever a Government of India scheme is announced, that's very important. Hong Kong newspaper shut down. This also we discussed recently. Apple Daily, very important. Apple Daily, it has attained international attention, so it's very important. Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily to stop to print its final copies, meaning it is going to shut down. They are going to shut down their press. The authorities froze their assets. The authorities froze the assets of Apple Daily using the national security law. What is that? For silencing Hong Kong's most Chinese critical media outlet. Apple Daily is the most critical of Chinese intention to control Hong Kong. So people of Hong Kong have been struggling for the past 2 to 3 years against the recently imposed national security law, which tries to grab the freedom and fruits of democracy that people of Hong Kong have been enjoying under their long years of ruling under Britain. Kiwis bury the cost of 2019. Yes, it was in 2019 World Cup that Kiwis lost to England in the finals of the World Cup. Now they have crowned the World Test Championship, beating India. New Zealand beat India to win the inaugural World Test Championship. And where was it held? Rose Bowl, Southampton, England. Very important. Rose Bowl, Southampton, England. And Kiwis captain was Kane Williamson. Indian captain was Virat Kohli. And Kyle Jamieson is adjudged the man of the final. Please take note of all this information. Read that news once again. Try to get additional points that may occupy a place in your future exams. The inaugural World Test Champion, New Zealand. Thank you very much, my dear students, for watching. Today it was not that a big program. In the days to come, we will try to cover more and more. So study hard, remain enthusiastic, and we will meet again at 3 o'clock with another session. Thank you. Goodbye.